Hello everybody, I'm Electrolama. If you've been watching me on Twitch, on ttv/Electrolama, you'll know that I've been playing a lot of Dyson Sphere program recently. I started this playthrough about a year and a half ago, and recently came back to it, and I've been enjoying playing through the game and expanding my factories. So if you know the game Factorio, this game is very much like that. The twist being this one is on different planets, and you can go between different planets to get more resources. So you can see kind of the familiar things of conveyor belts and factories. Here it's called assemblers. So I was just in this video I'll show off my home planet and kind of how I progressed early game, some tips on things that helped me in my playthrough, different strategies that worked, some strategies that didn't work. So I'll start out here because this is actually my first factory area. Here you can see I'm mining resources, smelting them down into plates. I only have five furnace or smelters here. These make the intermediate ingredients. These are some more intermediate ingredients, and then this was actually designed to be a factory for conveyor belts, and I think these were originally assemblers here. And they get put into these boxes. So now these boxes have been filled up with a wide variety of things, which this default factory has kind of been repurposed for. So doing this early game helped me a lot. Even though this looks like a relatively small factory compared to some other builds, this actually ended up being overkill for me. I think I would have been just fine making just one assembling machine of conveyor belts and one machine of sorters. Another thing that didn't quite work out for me, I spent a lot of time doing the math. It turns out there's actually a nice online calculator that kind of works on the ratio of different ingredients you need to make these things optimally. And so I'd calculated I need 3 assembling machines of gears and 2 machines of these based on how long it takes to make them and what ingredients they use. So doing that optimization, I think, ended up being overkill because I actually didn't need like 1,000 of these and 1,000 of these in early game, because early game you're just kind of building more small scale things. One thing that did work really well for me, which is one way to get a wide variety of items, is this generalized factory. I don't know if there's a common name for them in the community, but you basically just take these assembling machines and say, I need more boxes. So you just put that down, and then it automatically takes from this tower of boxes, which has all the different ingredients you would need to make whatever you want. And then it puts them into this top box, and you can just grab from here. And so this has actually served me really well in late early game and in mid game, just to get whatever I need, because there's a lot of different buildings you can make, and that you'll need as you build up your factories. So yeah, these kind of 2 different methods of making factories were a good learning experience for me in progressing through the game. Another interesting thing that I wasn't anticipating, I figured I would kind of stay around this in the solar system here. It has, I'll show it off real quick. Here's our home planet, which is actually a moon surrounding this gas giant. You'll see a list of all the resources this has. You'll notice it has no silicon and no titanium. For example, silicon is something's required for making solar panels. But this moon over here has plenty of silicon and titanium. And so one of the milestones in the game is actually expanding to other planets in order to manually grab some ore or resources, or even build a little factory here which is mostly what I did. I have a factory on this planet to make solar panels, and I bring them over here and use them for power. So that's also another thing that was successful for me, and is kind of just part of the normal progression through the game. Alright, let me look around and see if there's anything else worth mentioning here. This is kind of a mid-game thing. I have these boxes which each have drones, and you'll see in my inventory there's this column here which is where you have it's called logistics. This allows drones to come and fill up, these are the drones, they come up and fill your inventory automatically as you start using items like these assemblers and conveyor belts. And so this is something I did fairly recently, is just have one box for every type of item. And this has been pretty helpful for me. I can see this being useful in fairly early game, maybe late early game, like 30 to 50 hours in. And it's important to, if you have things delivering to these, you don't need all of these slots, because this will take a lot of ore to fill it up, but you might only need like one stack at a time, for example. So yeah, this kind of method has been successful. These boxes here I've had the whole duration of the game. This is where the factory drops off the finished conveyor belts and sorters and assemblers. You can sort of see here the different things that I've used that factory for, including these wind turbines. So yeah, I guess I'll also mention these wind turbines were very useful for early energy, but as soon as I was able to, I switched to solar panels, solar power, and I placed them on the North and South Pole, which I was hoping to show off, but I'm going the wrong direction.
Cruise mode. Cruise ended.
Yeah, so what I actually did, this is just a ring of items you can easily do. Just hold down left click and then drag, and that makes a nice line of items. I think I learned this fairly late, so that's a useful tip for early game. And then there's this collection of solar panels here. What I actually end up doing eventually is, you see this thing called polar solar. I just plop one of these blueprints down on the North Pole and the South Pole, and this is one strategy that's been really successful for me. For example, if I click here, it says all of the ones that are in red are blocked by other items, but if you do Shift Enter, it just builds whatever it's able to. And so these actually produce, like on their own, they don't produce a lot of power, but in total, this is enough to get you pretty far into the game without even needing to burn coal. So I'll kind of, let's see, I wonder if I have any other coal power plants currently. But yeah, that's something that I relied a lot on, is power plants that burn coal, or these which are energetic graphite. It turns out these are slightly more efficient than burning coal, but it's actually not by a lot, or not as much as you would think. One benefit is their resource, or they're energy dense, so they make a good fuel source for your mech. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend jumping right into energetic graphite. I think coal, if I were to replay this again, I would do coal while I need it, and then use that to yeah, I might still do energetic graphite, but I won't use that for very long. I'll do it just enough so that I can go to the neighboring planet to get solar panels. Now I'd recommend just doing solar panels until you get to nuclear power, for example. Because once you have a factory for these solar panels, it's pretty easy to get something built up like this, with just a ton of them. Let's see, you'll see kind of a variety of different points in the game's progression. Here's an area where I'm still burning some excess graphite. I'm actually not doing that anymore.
Flight mode.
Let me show this off real quick. So the next part of the stage of the game I was going to mention is the oil drilling. So working with oil is actually pretty complicated because you have 3 different recipes that all use different ratios of refined oil and hydrogen, and you can combine different ratios of those recipes to have different final ratios for things. But I'll kind of show off this design that I have here, which was very useful for me. Basically, it takes in the raw oil, it does this first stage of converting it to refined oil and hydrogen, and then you have this X-ray cracking, which outputs more hydrogen than it takes in, and it also takes in refined oil. So at this ratio of 2 to 4, for some reason, I think this 2 to 4 works. I did one that was like 2 to 3 to give me both refined oil and hydrogen. I might show that off in a bit. And then I took some refined oil to do something, and then I took the hydrogen and did something else. It turns out that was not successful, because if one of these factories gets blocked up, then it backs everything up. But doing this method of just taking all the oil and turning it into just all hydrogen, and have this be kind of its own self-contained system, ended up working really well for me, and is something I would definitely do again in a second playthrough. And is actually, I've moved a lot of my stuff to a new star system, and this is what I'm doing there, is I'm placing the same blueprint to get just a stream of hydrogen,
Flight mode.
and then I have another blueprint with a stream of refined oil.
Cruise mode.
Let's see if I can find that real quick. It stands out pretty visibly. You'll know when you see it.
Cruise ended. Flight mode.
Here it is. I have this huge chain of refineries. This is kind of where I started realizing that I should really start scaling things up if I want it to be useful later on in the playthrough. So this is another nice easy ratio. You just take the the raw oil in, and then you just have these two. This is the basic recipe, and then this turns it into all refined oil. Yeah, coming out of here. This does require coal, so that's one benefit to not relying too much on coal. You can see these have icons saying that I'm running out of coal. And so this factory is not as productive as it once was. And you'll actually see everything on this planet is kind of halted, and that's because my research is halted. Actually, I think I know what was causing it,
Flight mode.
because I made another save where I fixed the issue. This is that factory I was mentioning where it's similar to the one that produces just hydrogen, but it has 3 of these factories to also produce some extra refined oil. And as sort of a spoiler for how that turned out, these are 3 giant tanks of refined oil that ended up not getting used. And the reason why I had to do this is because if this gets backed up, then this part gets backed up. And it's really hard to kind of get the ratio and the flow just right to not have it backed up. Like, for example, this whole thing's backed up currently because this box filled up. Hold your control to take everything from that box. And now this should all eventually start flowing. It should produce more of these crystals, which you use to make these quantum chips. So this is a very late game item, but it's also one of the ingredients for green cubes, which is the highest tech level that I'm at right now. Each one of these color cubes, if you don't know about this in the game, each color is kind of a different stage in technology. And you use these to research different branches of the tech tree to unlock recipes for new buildings like this one, or upgrades for your mech to build faster, for example. This is the area that I'm doing all the research. I've, to make it more aesthetic, I've done red, yellow, green, blue, purple. So this is why it's halted, is because the green cubes were stopped being produced because that one box was full. So here's a blueprint design that I made really early in the game for blue cubes. So even though this looks pretty intricate, this is actually what I did very early in the game. Is I plopped down these three, and it's definitely worth noting. I think I started with this exact build, and I've used this one factory to make blue cubes for the entire duration of the game. For all of this in the tech tree. So that's something that I'll recommend, is you don't actually need a ton of blue cubes. I probably could have gotten by with just one or two of these strips here. Which would end up being something like 20 labs making the blue cubes. Yeah, you don't need a huge production of cubes, at least in early and mid-game. You can see even for these yellow cubes, which are more high-tech, I have about the same number of labs making those. Yellow cubes require going to a different planet, because that requires titanium. And you have red cubes, which rely on drilling. So yeah, these, kind of like I mentioned before, early game, you don't actually need to scale things up that high. You mostly just need, you need a few dedicated factories for things, but that generalized factory that I showed off is very helpful. I don't think I've mentioned, there's also the idea of what the community calls a mall. And the mall its goal is to give you one of every type of item. You can see the icons there. Basically I have one assembling machine for each type of item, and there are conveyor belts with the intermediate ingredients which are shared between all of those. In this case it's computer chips, iron plates, those magnetic coils, and gears. And you can see on the right you can have some copper being fed in, some rings being fed in. But something like this is actually really efficient use of resources, because you only need to build this number of machines and you have these items available to use for the whole playthrough. So I was very skeptical about this method when I was watching some tutorial videos, but having done it myself, I would recommend going this route. There are some videos that have giant malls, like way bigger than this, which gives you every item in the game. I'd say you don't need to really follow that. You can kind of just design your own mall based on the items that you need. This blueprint that I have here is actually all of the essentials that I end up using on whenever I go to a new planet. So I make good use of this one, and you'll notice this is a lot smaller mall than what you find in the tutorial videos. I'm trying to think other tips that were useful for me. I already mentioned the two standard refinery layouts to make either all hydrogen or all refined oil. I mentioned not relying too much on graphite and coal. I think that's something I would have done differently in the second playthrough. I guess I'll briefly mention, if you have, for example, 2 mining machines going into a row of smelters, something like this is actually kind of overkill. You only need maybe half this much to make fully use of 2 mining machines. Here, I think they actually are all fed into these, so this is actually kind of the right amount. So the game kind of encourages you to scale things up, but you don't usually need to scale things up that much in early game. And the thing that scales up is kind of the different types of items that you're making. Here's a very late game. This is, I think, one of the last things I built on this planet, which are graviton lenses. So they require these fancy particle colliders, which are very expensive to build. I have this logistics station, which is getting these ingredients from different parts of the planet, some of which rely on importing from the other nearby planets.
Flight mode.
And here you can see sort of what it looks like when you do need to scale things up more. Here I'm making this proliferator. I wouldn't necessarily say... So the idea behind proliferators is they increase the production rate or the efficiency of different items. You'll see little arrows on these that show that they're proliferated. It's just kind of a boost in productivity. And I don't think this actually saved me a lot of hassle. It does kind of increase the production rate, but instead of doing this, you can just place more smelters, for example, or just expand to other planets earlier. So they're not necessarily required, but I think they do end up being beneficial just in terms of raw resource usage. So probably worth experimenting with. I wouldn't say it's like a necessity as you're going through your first playthrough. They do require coal, so yeah, the ingredients for this is basically you make diamonds out of coal, and then you make these out of coal themselves, so basically just trading coal for efficiency of everything else. And one tip that I've been following is you can actually proliferate your proliferators. So you can see the proliferator has the arrows themselves, which makes the proliferator that much more, some percentage more better at proliferating. So it's all very meta, but it works out. Same thing with proliferating the coal that you use to make the proliferator. See all these coal has proliferator on it. Proliferator, proliferator, proliferator.
Flight mode.
Yeah, another thing I did is built little factories for things that I needed in the moment. Nice thing about refineries is they both basically use the same recipe, so I can just take this and say I don't want refineries, I want the drillers or oil extractors, and the same factory works the exact same way. So take the same raw ingredients. That's one thing about this game that's really nice, is that whenever it has the opportunity to make things simple, it tends to do that in terms of its recipes. That's something that annoyed me about Factorio, is as you progress through the game, it wasn't just A to B and B to C and C to D. It would be like A, B, and D to make E. So it's like just kind of mixed up all of the recipes to make things very more complicated than it needed to be in terms of game design. So I would recommend Dyson Sphere Program if you're interested in getting into the Factorio or Satisfactory style games. I do think it's very beginner friendly, and it's very rewarding to go through the game, because Dyson Spheres, which I don't have around this star system, I think I mentioned, I use a star system as a way to make cubes and research at first, but I had to expand into other ones. So I think this one is where I'll eventually make a Dyson Sphere, because it has good luminosity and I think good, yeah, a ton of resources. And then one of these other ones, let's see if I can find, yeah, Hathor, is where I started building my Dyson Swarm. So yeah, I think that's the end of this video. I won't show off my other star systems because I want to save that for kind of a future walkthrough and progress video. So hopefully this was useful for any new players. For people that are fans of my channel, this was probably a good overview of what I've been up to in this game, because I haven't been releasing a lot of videos recently. Still playing some Overwatch. Haven't been playing any KSP recently, but that's a game that I'd like to get back into in the near future, I think. I've also been playing some Minecraft, some of the finals, which I play on Fridays, and I stream that live on Twitch, on twitch.tv/electrolama. So I hope to see some of you there. You can even give a shout out saying I found you on YouTube. If you found me through my other videos, like the roller coaster recreations. I guess I'll also mention that's a project that I put on hold for a while, just because I kind of got burnt out on it. But I might release another RCT recreation and Planet Coaster video. So yeah, it's kind of just a status update on what I've been up to. This is Electro Llama, and thanks for watching.